Tonight on Newsnight, we link up to Dr. Kizza Besigye, who is standing by at his house in Kasangati. A couple of other things that we will seek to understand from him. There's been several developments today. The police saying we are going to Dr. Kizza Besigye's house again and we shall be there indefinitely. Kizza Besigye and his party saying we are continuing to defy, we don't see how it is against the law, etc., etc. So joining me is Dr. Kizza Besigye. Dr. Besigye, good evening and thank you for joining us.
Yes, good evening, and good evening to all the NTV viewers out there.
Dr. Besigye, the reason there has been this standoff between you, the FDC and your supporters and police, or the state for that matter, is because severally you have said you won this election, your supporters say you won this election, and that is why there has been this standoff. But up to date, you have really not been able to justify what you mean by you won this election. The NRM will tell you we won this election. One, the Electoral Commission announced them winners. Now, there can be debate on whether or not it was a free and fair election. Somebody went to court and the Supreme Court declared Yoweri Kaguta Museveni as president. Again, people can pettifog and say, well, the Supreme Court is on his side, so it's expected. But they have a way they can't justify their win. How do you justify your win, Dr. Besigye?
Well, you see, as we have pointed out right from the beginning, what has simply been a creeping coup d'etat. The use of force to take over, to overthrow the will of the people. Because don't forget that when I was arrested on the 19th of February, we were at our headquarters in Najanankumbi, and we were about to address the media about the very glaring discrepancies between what the Electoral Commission had announced at the polling stations and for which we had the declaration forms, and what the Electoral Commission was then announcing at Nambole for the same polling stations, totally different results. And that is why our headquarters was attacked by forces led by Mr. Kawesi of the police.
Dr. Kizza Besigye, if I'm to jump there,
and we were arrested roughly.
Dr. Besigye, up to date, you have never come out to say what was on your declaration of results forms. Yes, you will say that they were taken away by the police and so on, but what was there on? The public is interested in knowing. Your supporters, yes, I'm sure, would like to know.
Yes, and we have what it takes, you see, but just presenting it to the public is interesting, but it's not determinant. What is the determinant in terms of the what we have is presenting it to a process that will give an outcome as to who is the winner of the election.
Does that then not mean, Dr. Besigye, that you probably should wait for an audit? Okay, I just need to apologize to our viewers. There is a slight delay between here and where Dr. Kizza Besigye is. 2 to 3 seconds. But Dr. Besigye, if that is the case then, because you see, when you keep telling the country and your supporters for that matter that you won, and yet you cannot explain to them how you won and give them evidence that you won, it's a little bit bothersome. Is it not?
No, wait a moment. You see, we are ready to give what we have. But giving it to the public does not determine who the winner of the election is. What we are more focused on is determining who the winner of the election is. Now, the process is provided by the law is that once the Electoral Commission has made a declaration which we do not agree with, the solution is not to present what we have to the public, but to present what we have to a process that will change what the Electoral Commission has declared. And what the Electoral Commission has declared could only be changed by the Supreme Court. But remember, from the 19th of February, I was a prisoner. From the 19th of February, our party headquarters was occupied by the police. From the 19th of February, many of our upcountry offices were raided, and many of our leaders and agents were arrested. So very clearly, the regime, having realized that they had lost the election, they set off to disintegrate it. They set off to use force, to use the police, to overthrow the will of the people. That is what happened from 19th.
Dr. Besigye,
So
finally
we
on
could
this
not
particular
access
matter,
the Supreme Court.
finally on this matter, Dr. Besigye, are you telling the nation that actually you have the results from all the
No,
112
before
districts
you come to,
from the 2,810 polling stations, 28,000 that is? You have all the results, you're just waiting for an internal audit, and then you can avail them. Is that the case?
We do not have the results from 28,010 polling stations.
You have from how many, Dr.
Even
Besigye?
Mr. Chigundu did not announce the final results with those results. Even Mr. Chigundu did not have them. And one does not need all of them. We believe that what we have is sufficient to show that we won the election. We have only been denied the opportunity to present it before a body that can conclusively decide that yes, this is the truth, because we could not go to the Supreme Court. And let me make this very important point. Once any of the candidates has been denied the process of petitioning, there cannot be a conclusively elected person.
Dr. Besigye, you always
Because
talk
the
about
Constitution
people
provides
power.
that
Dr. Besigye, you always talk about people power, and maybe this is the time to exercise it and tell the people that, look, we have got results which show we actually won this election. Why don't you do that? Because the pettifogging there is, you call for an internal audit, clearly the EC and for that matter, the NRM are not giving it to you.
We shall do that. Make no mistake. We are going to do so.
All right, we'll wait for that to happen, and when it
does, we wanted to focus on a process that would declare us as the substantive winner of this election, not just for a public relations exercise.
All right, tethered to that,
When
Dr.
we are
Besigye,
convinced that that process can no longer take place.
all right, I was saying tethered
Yes,
to
then
that
as a
is
public relations exercise, as part of what we are going to do.
all right, Dr. Besigye, I have met several of your supporters.
Which is to form a government.
Some have actually met you and written to you, and they will say, Dr. Besigye, we do support you. We voted for you previously, even in this particular election. But the demonstrations, the defiance, it does not make the cut. And they'll give reasons like, you know, the city gets chaotic. People are not able to operate their businesses. Everybody gets stranded in a way, and they keep saying, maybe you need to look for another avenue. And these are your supporters.
Well, my supporters are free to provide that other avenue. You should be aware that I don't have all the ideas in the world. I have not had anybody suggest another avenue apart from what I have suggested. But let me make it very clear. What we are trying to do in this process is taking power back to the people, power controlled by a few gunmen, a few warlords. Make no mistake, that will not happen painlessly. It will take some sacrifice, it will take some effort on the part of citizens. And yes, some losses may come here and there. Don't forget that Mr. Museveni, who controls power now, took it after a 5-year bitter war that cost our country more than 500,000 lives.
So you want to take a
What
route
we
similar
are
to that, you're saying?
recommending to our country, the type of struggle we are recommending to our country is a non-violent struggle. Is a non-violent struggle, and that is why the government is now fighting with the people who are praying.
Dr.
But
Besigye,
our prayers are potent, our prayers are effective.
Doctor, we have heard from some people within
And
your party
the
who have talked
violence
about...
that is being committed is being done by the government.
All right, then. We have heard from some of the people in your party who have talked about a parallel government to be created by you folks within the opposition, within the FDC for that matter, if all the processes you're trying to chase do not come through. Can you confirm or deny these claims?
No, I can definitely confirm that, as I have said, if there is no process that brings us back to the constitutional path, because now we are in the wilderness, having stopped me from accessing the Supreme Court, we are in the wilderness. We have diverted from the constitutional processes. The audit is what can bring us back to the constitutional path. If that fails, there will be nobody conclusively elected in this election.
So
And
are you
therefore, if
confirming
Mr.
that
Museveni goes
plans
ahead
are underway for you to
trying
create
to swear
a
himself
parallel
into
government?
office,
All right, so are you confirming to us
then
that
we
there
are
are
also
plans?
completely justified to form our own government.
Okay, and you form this government. How are you going to run government when you do that?
We shall cross that bridge when we get to it. But I can assure you, we have a very clear idea of how these things can be done.
All right.
Let me inform you. You know, governments have power because citizens cooperate with the government. If the greatest majority of Ugandans who want change today do not cooperate with the Museveni who has sworn himself in against the wishes of the people, and the people do not cooperate with his regime, that regime is done. It's finished. It's not there.
Doctor, you have said that you were denied a chance
And
to
let me ask you,
petition the Supreme Court.
We have,
And we know for a fact that previously you said you will not be going back to the Supreme Court. You felt you could not get justice delivered your way. So do you not prevaricate, do you not lie, with all due respect to say, when you said that you were denied a chance to go to the Supreme Court, and yet you said you don't trust the courts, you will not be going back to the courts. But here you are saying that you were denied a chance to petition the Supreme Court.
You see, no. Get this very clearly. And I don't know why people keep on going back to the same thing.
Well, because the same thing was said by you, Doctor.
I have every right to change my view. I have every right to change my decision.
So did you actually change your mind? Do you now trust the courts of law, the Supreme Court especially?
Biased, and that the court may not give may not be a process that is the best way of resolving the electoral petitions now. Does not mean that anybody should incarcerate me and deny me the constitutional right to petition the court.
Doctor, the FDC
The
has
government should
about...
have left me free, and out of my own volition, I refuse to go to court.
Your party has about 35, 36 MPs. Well, there are some petitions. The number could go slightly higher or slightly lower. How would you manage to be president and run this country when you have that niggardly number of MPs in parliament? You could be impeached on day 2 for any flimsy reason. How are you going to do that as president? Assuming you were declared president, assuming these efforts you have in place actually
is
make
another
you president.
story. In fact, I think there should be a completely new election for members of parliament. Because one of the things that we intend to pursue is the creation of the many new constituencies ahead of the last election, which we believe was done fraudulently. And we intend to pursue that also. So, you see, we are being governed in this country in a manner that is creating a total mess. So, our 36 members of parliament is not what we are entitled to.
All right, Doctor, I'm afraid I'm being told my time is running fast.
But even in the worst case scenario, there is nothing that stops me because remember, I don't have to form government, I don't have to form the executive from parliament. Parliament is the legislature, executive is the president. I can I can appoint all ministers outside the parliament.
Actually, what I was talking about is impeachment, which parliament can do. But let's move away from that debate, and we need to wrap this up. My time is up, I'm afraid. There has been the call for talks between yourself and, for that matter, your party and the NRM, and for that matter, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, to try and resolve this once and for all. Those talks, do you believe in them? How far is the plan for this, if at all, at least from your end?
Well, our position has been very clear right from 2001. We have always been advocating for dialogue, but a very constructed and constructive dialogue that whose outcome also has a chance of being implemented. Because, as you know, Mr. Museveni has a very clear and elaborate history of failed talks, of unimplemented agreements and things like that. So, whereas we are keen to have dialogue, we have been very clear about what needs to be done for such a dialogue to be of any meaning to the country.
Dr. Kizza Besigye, I wish I had more time with you, but unfortunately I don't. Many thanks for making the short time that you have for us.
Thank you very much and have a good evening.
To you too. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Newsnight.